And God, of course, has not revealed us everything. So wish that God's reveal more truths on these matters, what we don't know. But for those who sit down and think, of course, those who sit down and think are all considered usually out of their minds. Yes. So the rule of obedience revealed to Adam, besides a special command not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge, was the moral law. The rule of obedience. The rule of obedience means there must be a command behind it. The rule of obedience. Obedience is a moral issue. Obedience and disobedience are. The law may not be a moral issue. When I say, son, don't make any noise, that's not necessarily violation of any of the 10 commandments. So that commandment may not be a moral issue, but when he disobeys, that become a moral issue. Because obedience to authority is a moral issue. Because this authority is given by God, therefore it's a challenge against God. Sister, I will give you one more job, because I have, where is it? I have somewhere. There is a little, this. Put two, and do a little bit stirring. Yeah, it's a sweet, artificial sweet. It's not good enough. Now reports coming, they are not very good. Everything is a problem.
All because of Adam.
Well, Adam's sin definitely affected my kidneys. I cannot deny that.
I also contributed.
But my kidney is not the result of Adam's sin. Because Adam was given a kidney, at creation. So I have one. Yeah, well, So the rule of obedience, it's a principle all through in the Bible. He who resists the authority resists God. Yes.
So can you say that the 10 Commandments is therefore not absolute?
10 Commandments are, we should say that 10 Commandments are absolutes because they are the commandments of an absolute God. But to say the content of 10 Commandments, like for example, what about the Sabbath day? If it was an absolute law, then nobody can change it, right? Because it's an absolute. But God Himself changed it. So that means, observe the Sabbath or honor the Sabbath is not an absolute day. Now we have the first day instead of the seventh day. Well, there it is. So we cannot say, I will say the 10 Commandments are absolutes in the sense that they are the will of God. They are the will of God. And therefore, when they are the will of God, they express the will of God, then they are absolute because God is absolute. As far as the statements, the content of every law, well, the 10 Commandments is the will of God. The will of God can always change because the will of God is not subjected to anything. There is nothing that controls the will of God. Therefore, the will of God can change. So, in the Old Testament, many things God said, thou shalt not eat the pork, for example, now says that you can eat as much you want. Circumcision was given there, now says you don't need any circumcision. Every uncircumcised male child was to be cut off, should be killed there in the Old Testament, but now, different. So the will of God can be changed. Why? Because the will of God is controlled by God. God is not controlled by the will. The person of God is above everything. He is not controlled by everything. Therefore, anything that is not controlled by, anything that is controlled by God, you cannot say that is absolute. That is absolute. So the will, as the will of God, because it represents the will of God, it is absolute because it's God's will. In that sense, so we can say, but if you want to go further and say that, analyze every single commandment, the content of the commandment, you will say that the Sabbath, for example, is changed. Therefore, the Sabbath cannot be absolute. Of course, what people will say that the Sabbath was only changed with the seventh day. So, even now it is absolute. Thou shalt honor the day of the Lord. Well, that's one way of arguing it. But the fact that the Sabbath falls on the seventh day, that's not applicable for us. Yes. But all the other, they remain. But even none of the New Testament very clearly says we are not under the law. That means we are not under the 10 commandments. We are not bound by any one of the 10 commandments. 9 commandments are repeated by the Lord Jesus Christ in its enlarged form. That's what applies to us. We are not governed by Moses' 10 commandments. We are governed by the new 10 commandments. Because 9 commandments are restated in the New Testament by the Lord in an advanced form. For example, you look at a woman to lust, you already committed adultery. In the Old Testament, this was not the definition of adultery. And murder the same way. If you hate your brother without reason, you are already committing murder. So the Old Testament did not say that. Old Testament, you can hit a person, if he doesn't die in 3 days, you have not committed murder. So there's a difference. So we are governed by not the 10 commandments of Moses, we are governed by the 10 commandments of Jesus Christ or the New Testament. That's different. So are we under law? No, he who trusts in the law. Paul is very clear. We are not under the law. Anyone who wants to go under the law, he is a cursed person, because nobody could fulfill the law. The only one who fulfilled the law is our Lord Jesus Christ. Nobody else ever fulfilled the law, because it's impossible to fulfill the law. The Pharisees he found even Jesus Christ and the disciples guilty of violating the law. In their understanding was that. But Jesus said, your understanding is wrong. The law is given for man, man is not given to law. Law is made for the benefit of man. So if an action on the Sabbath day benefits man, then it is not a violation of law. A person, your neighbor had an heart attack and you have a vehicle, they don't have it, you immediately took the man on Sunday morning 10 o'clock and you rushed to the hospital. That day you could not come to the meetings. You have not violated the Lord's day because you have saved a life. That was the problem with in the story of the Good Samaritan. What was the high priest doing? The priest was rushing because it's the hour for the evening sacrifice. Oh, if I help that man, then the time of the sacrifice will be, I will make mistake there. So he was rushing. The Levites also, this is the time I have to be help in, skinning the animal and cutting the animal, putting the fire and this and that. And if I wait around here helping him, then it will be there. God will be unhappy. But the Samaritan who didn't have any of those things, he helped, and the Lord said, he is the neighbor. See? So there is that point, some people ask, is it wrong to miss a Sunday, because of certain situations? I say, what situation? To go to the wedding of a neighbor? No, that's not a sufficient reason. But to attend the funeral of your neighbor, I say, sufficient reason. If the funeral happened to be 11 o'clock and you definitely want to do some immediate neighbor or your relationship, you wanted to go and pay obeisance and comfort the family and do some help to the family, you must go and do it. So the New Testament, the spirit of the law, that's what Paul said, letter killeth, but the spirit gives life. We need to know what was the intent of the law. Why God made this law.
But how can one say that? Because abiding by the law in an absolute sense is difficult, and therefore we should set aside the law and then say that we are above law.
We cannot set aside the law, but the Lord has set aside the law for us. We are not under the law, we are under the grace. It's a new dispensation. We are not living under the Moses. We don't have animals to sacrifice. We don't have high priest. From one family, we don't have priest, we don't have a temple, one temple where all sacrifices. God changed that order. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there am I in their midst. See that? Yes.
Then we talk about the commandments Jesus has given, like.
Yes.
So how do you relate?
Those commandments are for us because Jesus has given them. He is the author of
To that extent, you are under those laws.
Under those laws, yes. But it is not classified as law. The whole New Testament is not classified as law, while the whole Old Testament is classified as law, the law and prophets. That's the Old Testament. The terminology of the New Testament is basically we are under the grace, the dispensation of grace. Grace means our inability, God's sufficiency for man's deficiencies. For anything, or God's riches at Christ's expense.
The only thing is that you have to submit law.
Yes, submission is the key of it. And God is not going to give His grace to any rebellious person.
Even though you must have been erring in all those areas where
you have to submit to God. Because the principle of obedience from Genesis on never changed. The principle of faith never changed. Ultimately, why Adam disobeyed, if you analyze, Adam disobeyed because Adam didn't have faith in God. Adam didn't think that it was for his benefit. God had made this law for the benefit of me. He didn't believe that. If he believed that, he would not have done it. So it's a question of faith. As long as he believed God's commandment, God's statement, he did not eat. The day Satan came, maybe, when Satan said that you shall be like God, he began to disbelieve in a strong sense. Maybe the thought was there, but he began strongly, yes, my thinking is correct. God is a jealous God. He doesn't want us to be benefited,
Possibly that view testifies the saving of the thief at the right side.
The thief on the right side was saved only by faith. He what all he believed? He believed that this man on the cross is different from
All of us.
He has never sinned. We experience for what he has done no wrong. Simple faith. He believed that this man will die, but he will resurrect again. He believed this man is the ultimate king. He is going to come as the king, establish his kingdom. He believed that this man, Jesus, is going to decide eternity for everybody who die. That's why he begged. So he had essentially all the ingredients of faith.
He understood faith properly.
He understood theology very properly, and no man can be saved without faith. The content of your faith may differ, but you have to have faith. The objective faith cannot change. Subjective faith may change, but objective faith cannot change. Means as to what you believe, that has to be correct. So the thief on the cross is a very clear case of salvation by faith. And salvation is immediate. Today you shall be. He only asks for when you come in the kingdom. Lord says, salvation I offer is not by and by. It is now. Isn't that amazing? It's so simple faith. And my whole question is, what made him to believe all these things? That's, I often wonder. I have a thinking that he was a Jew, who went wrong. Maybe, he participated in many meetings of Jesus and he understood things.
Grace.
Yes. This is amazing, the mental capacity of man, whether it is his capacity or the Holy Spirit, opens and tells him this. The blind man sitting by the roadside, somebody said, the big noise, he said, what is it? He said, Jesus is going. He immediately cried, you son of David. How did he know it's son of David? His theology. Everybody was questioning that. But this man said, you son of David, have mercy on me. So he understood this Jesus is not an ordinary, he is the son of David, promised in the Old Testament, who is to come as a redeemer of man. If I pray to him, he will answer. And the Lord prayed and answered him. So the fact that he was blind and a beggar does not mean that he didn't know the yes. And that's the amazing thing. Well, some will say that's because the election of God. Yes, definitely he was elected. Or maybe even though he was a blind man, he paid attention to what people were saying. Maybe he went to the synagogue or temple, listened to the preachers and all. That may be true. So, you don't need a whole lot to believe, It's just like getting light. If the internal wiring is correct, if you press on the switch, you get light. The only place where the internal wiring is right is the switch of Jesus. Other switches you press, you don't get light because Jesus is the light. That switch you on, you get it. You may not know how you got the light. The principles of electricity and all, one may not know. But if he believes that if I press this switch, which is Jesus, I'll get light. And the people ask, how do you get light? Because he said he is the light. That much is enough. The more is for your appreciation. That's for the appreciation. Yes. We can eat ice cream and enjoy. But how ice cream is made, the little child has no idea. No idea. Maybe the adult will. The adult who knows how ice cream made, they maybe enjoy the ice cream a little better than the small child. But the sweetness of the ice cream does not increase for anybody. Only the appreciation. Yes. Yes. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Yes. That is true. You show a flower to a blind man. How beautiful is that flower? Not at all. Not at all. So then the question comes, our first parents fell into open disobedience because already they were secretly corrupted. For an evil inclination already happened preceding the evil act. The origin of our evil inclination is pride. What is pride? Craving for undue exaltation. Adam abandoned God, the highest good, and went after the desire to become like God. He abandoned God and he went to become like God. He didn't want God, but he wanted to be like God. In the sense that he wanted to be independent and sovereign and all that. That was the problem. So that's what pride is all about. He had to cleave to God as the end of his life, but now he wants to become like God to attain knowledge of good and evil as the ultimate end of his life. The ultimate end of his life is to know good and evil. The ultimate end of his life was what? Not good and evil. It was pleasing God. It was glorifying God. That was the ultimate. So he changed the ultimate end even. This is exactly self as the ultimate end. The wicked desire to please himself secretly existed in Adam, and the open sin was but its consequences. The secret sin is that I want to be God, like God. I don't want this fellowship with God. No, I don't want this living in the presence of God. No, I want to be God. Completely independent. That's what pride is. Satan, basically, I wanted to exalt my throne above God. I don't want to be like God, but I want to be above God. Wow. What a desire. What a terrible, terrible desire. Adam could not have sinned without an inclination to sin. He was created with a holy inclination against sin. So where did he get this new inclination for sin? it was self-created by evil thinking and meditation against God's goodness and the desire for selfish attainment. You know, we sit down and think and think and think. If we are thinking in the wrong direction, we will come to the wrong conclusion, right? Take the example of Buddha. What happened to him? You know, one day Buddha saw an old man's carcass, dead body being carried out. So the question came, how, why he died? Then he saw a young man's. Then he saw a little child's. So he said, that's very strange. Old people die, young people die, little children. So what's the reason for this deaths? What's the reason? He had no answer. So he said, I want to find the answer. So what is the solution for the answer? I'm going to sit under the Bodhi tree, close my eyes, and just think. Meditation. He sat there how long? I don't know how many days. Sat there and sat there and sat there, and one day he opened his eyes and said, I got the secret. The answer. What was the answer? Yes, attachment to the world, the desires and all that. So you have to, your senses, all your senses, your eyes should not be attached to this world, your ears should not be, and all that. So he said, see good, hear good, think good, talk good, and all that. How wrong a person could be than him. And he also got the enlightenment, there is no God. There is nobody to control it. Man has to control himself. Yes. They have made Buddha the God. Buddha never believed in God. But Buddha is made God. They worship him. Even not everybody. There is a Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism, and you think about there is difference between these and all that, and that's a different subject. But so Buddha didn't find out the answer. No, he never find out the answer. The attachment to the world is not the problem of man. Suppose a man is born blind, he doesn't see. He is also born deaf, he cannot hear. The smell system, it doesn't work, so he cannot smell. He is dumb, so he cannot speak. So he is closer to reality than the man who is born with all these problems. Is he more holier than the other person? Not at all. Not at all. He is not delivered from the problem of sin and all that. No, he is not. So Buddha was completely wrong, completely wrong. So people like this, each one goes. There is our Maharshi Yogi, very popular in the West. What is his system? TM meditation, transcendental meditations. What is it? God is one of his attributes is transcendental God. It means that you cannot approach God. He is so far. So what is it? He developed a meditation system where you liberate your soul, and your soul will go and reach the unreachable God. How can you do that? Can you reach the unreachable? If you reach it, it is reachable. If it is unreachable, you cannot reach it. So how can you do that? Then you take out the secret and come back and you share with others. So who is bigger, God or man? That's my question. Greece is so far away, and there is a king who cannot be defeated by anybody. His name is Alexander the Great. I'm living few years back. So what do? I release myself, and I go and take away the secrets of Alexander the Great, of all his success. Who is bigger, me or Alexander the Great? The Arab was traveling with his servant. They were carrying precious diamonds. Millions of dollars were diamonds on the camel back. His servant's name is Abu. So they have to travel through the wilderness, in the sand, So they won't sleep together. In the night they will rest somewhere right in the wilderness. So when the Abu will sleep, the Arab will be up. When the Arab will sleep, Abu will be up, because there are pirates and there are thieves and all that. So of course when Abu is up, the Arab cannot sleep, because it is his property. So he will in between ask, Abu, yes, master, what are you thinking now? I was counting the stars, how many, who made all these things. Okay, good, very good, very good. Keep on counting and all that. Abu, yeah, what are you doing? I was thinking, how far we have came on this donkey's back, the camel's back and all this and this. Abu, yeah, what are you thinking? I was thinking you and I both are awake. Who had stolen the diamonds? Who had stolen the diamonds? So that's what is happening, So God will be saying to angels, hey, you are awake and I was awake. Somebody came and stolen all my, transcendental attributes. It's gone. I look and it's not there anymore. What stupid system that people are flocking around, flocking around him and TM. Very great transcendental meditation. Yogi, he has an international university and all, all kinds of degrees are all offered. I mean, people, everyone like that. There was another one called, what do you call him, the one who was in Pune? Oshe, yeah. Yes, Rajneesh's philosophy was salvation through sex. The highest enjoyment, man is having, God has given the highest blessing is a sexual blessing. So by doing that one, you can please God. But philosophy. I think that man died of AIDS maybe. I don't know. I mean, this sort of philosophy, people are there. They are there only because they find, somebody to scratch where it is itching. Scratching where itching is the greatest enjoyment in the world, right? So these people all have sexual problems, so they go there. So he will scratch. That's it. He will scratch. People didn't want a God who cannot be reached. People want a God that suits their pocket. So they go there. People didn't want a God who demands that man will obey everything that he says. No, we don't want. But we want a God who will be pleased by not seeing good, not touching, not this and that. See, this is the sort of thing. Adam also fell into kind of adamant humanity to that one, If you say the same lie 5 times, that lie will sound true for you. Say the same lie for 5 times, the 6th time you say the lie, you will be speaking as if it is truth. Because in your own mind it registers as the truth, because you have been saying it as truth, though you know it is lie. That's how some people can say the lie very smartly, because they have been saying that lie for so long, it's never truth for them. Yes. Read the Romans chapter 1, that's you see there, people. They keep saying there is no God, there is no God, there is no God. Now they can say loudly there is no God because they honestly believe there is no God. They honestly believe there is no God. So it's very difficult for you to convince them there is a God, because they are honest in believing. Somebody who involved in some systems like that, they honestly believe. No, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So the internal part of the first sin is the principal part of the sin. It was the real commencement of the sin. It was the origination from nothing. of a sinful disposition in the human will. There was no previous disposition of sin. When Adam inclined away from the Creator to the creature, already the sinful inclination originated. The conspiracy to a wrong action is viewed equally serious as the action itself, and is equally punishable. The conspiracy to a wrong action is viewed as serious as the action itself. So Adam's meditation upon these issues, whereby he originated an inclination, he thought, his mind inclined towards eating that tree. Then the question of eating is very easy, because you are already inclined. When you are this way or this way, it will be very difficult. So from this way God created Adam, I think his own, nobody did it, his own thinking made him. People do that. Some people sit down and think evil. Very interesting, We all know that we have the thinking capacity given by God. But sometimes what are we thinking? We're thinking thoughts that we should have never thought. It could be moral issues, it could be economic issues. How many of us became Nobel Prize winners in our thinking? Yeah, we can think anything we want. Well, imagination is a blessing, and that blessing is a blessing only when it is imagining the possible thing or even the probable thing. But when you are imagining the impossible thing, you are going to be the owner of impossibilities. It's like saying that, hey, I have 1,000 mansions up there. Somebody said that, hey, you know that last night I had good parota and mutton chops. Man, I ate and ate and ate. How come you didn't give me something? Well, I ate them all. Are you selfish? You don't have anything? No. But then how come you are saying now you are hungry? Well, that was in my dream I was eating. So we all eat good food in our dream, but when we open our eyes, it is still kanji and that's it. So, Adam thought, and he was so much thinking about these things. He finally came to the conclusion that it's better to be independent of God than subjected to God. Independent of God. Okay, we take a break.